start with Rodney Perez. I consistently see those who violate our parking and traffic laws. I also see those who violate other ordinances, such as blowing their yard debris into the street. If we don't have the discipline to enforce those laws and regulations, remove them. What will you do to ensure we enforce our laws?
That's a great question. We have hundreds of pages of ordinance on the books, but we don't have anybody enforcing them. You know, we pay an attorney to draft these ordinance and go into the grass clippings. We still see it. We put that ordinance in place probably 4 or 5 years ago, and it's still being done, but there's nobody going out and enforcing it. You know, I know that when you talk to anybody in City Hall, you talk to your alderman, it's like they don't want to do anything until a complaint comes in. If we had a code enforcement officer in place, you drive around town, you see what's being done, and you take care of it then. We had a young lady come into a council meeting with her father a few years back complaining about dog droppings in a yard. And I know that was kind of a big thing on Facebook and on the radio and all that. You know, but nothing ever got done with it. And the people weren't fined. You know, there's all kinds of things being done that we have ordinance for that is not being enforced. And the reason why it's not being enforced is because we don't have anybody in place to enforce them. So what good is an ordinance if we don't have anybody out there taking care of business? Thank you.
Mr. Giordano?
Give me the question one more time. I kind of lost track.
All of it?
No, just the beginning.
What will you do to ensure we enforce our laws? And they talked about the parking, traffic, blowing
okay. Thank you.
leaves and stuff in the street.
First and foremost, obviously, it is true that if you can have as many laws or as many ordinances as that you want, in other words, you can codify a complete book of them, but you definitely need someone enforcing them. Now, does that always fall to an enforcement officer? Not necessarily. I mean, I know for a fact that there's a lot of times we all have been called into action as quote-unquote citizen representatives, right? If you've got a neighbor that's doing something or there's an issue, I would like to think that most people go across and shake the hand of their neighbor or talk to them and say, look, you know, maybe this isn't right. Is there something we can do about that? What I would try to avoid is getting in a situation where every last thing, you know, comes to the attention of the city, right? I would like to believe that citizens can handle a lot of this stuff on their own. Granted, they have to do it within the bounds of the ordinances and stuff that are established. For instance, you know, I can't help but, you know, look at a lot of our car dealers. I'm very appreciative of the fact that they supply a lot of dollars in terms of sales tax, but I know for a fact, you know, just because having worked for the DOT, that a lot of times they'll park cars, you know, in the state's right of way, in the city's right of way, a lot of different things like that. And I know for a fact that those people have been notified and contacted, and sometimes they adhere and sometimes they don't. So would we benefit from having somebody that continues to reinforce that? Yes, I think that currently we have someone that does take care of some of those issues, but maybe it's just a situation where they can't get to all of them, or they need help, or the process needs to be changed.
And Mr. Harrell.
Okay, on code enforcement, we've been dealing with that on a seasonal basis, because normally the phone starts ringing when the grass greens up. As you look outside right now, many people will probably be cutting their grass this week. In the code, once again, like I said, the phone starts ringing. Our part-time code enforcement officer will be back in place on Monday, April 3rd. The call was made a week ago to bring him back in. That was as soon as he could be back. The phone doesn't ring nearly as much in the winter as it does in the summer. So we have not had a full-time code enforcement officer. And actually this campaign season, it would have been nice to have a code enforcement officer out there, because I've never seen so many signs put in so many places that aren't supposed to have signs. This is the worst I've seen since I've been in the political game. But anyway, we do address the code enforcement, and our code enforcement officer will be back in place on Monday, April 3rd.